Horror on YouTube isn't just a spooky image with some text below it. Not anymore. There's levels to this. And while I give you a glimpse at the top, let's drag you back to
Generating Level 1.
Slop. While these stories may have some very basic essence of thought put into them, that thought is absolutely pummeled by laziness, and to me they can look like shameless cash grabs. Some real slop being delivered straight to the trough, if you know what I'm saying. And some of those videos can be the ones with the black background and white text that I've looked at in numerous videos. But more specifically in my Is This an AI Analog Horror Content Farm and the disturbing rise of AI analog horror content farms. I'm sure you've seen these types of videos hundreds of times too, and look, I get it. Making a scary PSA or EAS scenario with an entity in it that's represented by a simple clip art graphic or sometimes nothing can work really well. But once it's been done countless times and new ones that appear don't differentiate themselves enough from what came before, it loses its charm really quickly, and it has. This is a type of stuff that can also rely on the shock factor of using popular IPs. I can think of an example I can definitely pull from for this. In my The Incredibles disturbing analog horror video, I brought up a series that explores and takes inspirations from the darker and more hidden lore of The Incredibles. And would you look at that, a lot of what we're presented is just white text on a black screen with some images. The presentation in this regard leaves a lot to be desired, especially when the series uses other means to tell its story. I do also remember saying that I like the story of the series and Mr. Incredible's rampage, insanity, and death, turning him into Mr. Destruction, but The Incredibles IP really does some heavy lifting. Then again, isn't that what's to be expected when you develop upon someone else's work? Don't get me wrong, that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing though. But from this level, you take a huge step up into
Generating Level 2.
This is where you start to see a real difference. Compared to the previous level, these creators clearly put in effort, but the shortcuts they take hold the entire series back from reaching its full potential. A good example of this is the fairy tale analog horror. Its style and audio design aren't exactly groundbreaking, but they're solid enough to highlight their biggest strength: character writing. The wolf is easily one of the most memorable parts of this series, and it's largely because he is one of the only characters with a real voice. FoxyMations gives him a sense of menace and emotion that you can't get from text or AI narration. You feel this with the wolf's presence in every scene he's in, especially during the flashback sequence that really defines his character. But this immersion gets shattered when the other characters speak with AI-generated voices. The tone is flat, the emotion is gone, and it undercuts the tension this series works so hard to build.
And to his brother's stick house. The wolf followed, huffed, puffed, and blew that house down too.
If the creator had fully committed to voice actors, this entire thing could have been elevated to the higher level projects. Instead, it sits here, good, but held back by its shortcuts. Passion. We're stepping into the first level where there are genuinely great series that live here. If you never have watched anything from here or above, seriously, this is where the magic starts. Passion in analog horror is almost a sixth sense. You can't always define it, but you can recognize it almost instantly. It's in the deliberate details, story confidence, and creative risks. The Mandela Catalogue is one of the clearest examples of what makes this tier so compelling. Those early episodes were shot on an iPhone, yet the concepts were so confidently presented, the atmosphere so maliciously built, that people immediately connected with it. You didn't need a flashy production You just needed a creator's vision, and that alone was strong enough to push and pull in millions of viewers. As the series progressed, you could feel the creators pushing themselves in new directions, experimenting with more ambitious visuals, refining the sound design, sharpening the storytelling. Each release felt like it carried more weight and intention than the last, and while there are still moments where visuals don't fully land or the pacing stumbles, the commitment behind every choice is unmistakable. The commitment is what draws people into Mandela Catalogue, and why this series has grown far beyond what anyone has expected, even spanning a VHS release that I'll be covering pretty soon. But that leads us to this is where passion and production collide in the best possible way. These series aren't just good analog horror series, they're productions. These creators have built loyal fan bases, entire communities, and reputations that stick with you long after the episode ends. Harmony and Horror, the Walten Files, the Wonderland Incident, these series define the upper class of the genre. Every frame feels intentional, the visuals are top tier, and the atmosphere is meticulously crafted. And the sound design? It's in a whole different league. You're getting custom soundtracks, layered audio engineering, pacing that feels cinematic. This is the level where analog horror competes with indie film. Harmony and Horror is a perfect example. Its visuals are groundbreaking even when it dropped, and combined with its glitchy, frantic audio, identity, and deeply tragic characters, you're pulled into a world that feels horrifying in more ways than one. But even here, there are cracks. Harmony and Horror hides its best episodes in deep playlists, which are hard to find in most cases. Wonderland Incident, one of my personal favorites, who has some of the best Blender visuals ever put to analog horror, also has this issue. With the channel being buried with unrelated uploads, these series deserve to be the faces of their channels, but discoverability issues hold them back from their true potential reach. And that's the biggest difference between level 4 and the final category. The top don't just make content, they package it perfectly. This is the peak. The masterpieces. The series that don't just contribute to analog horror, they redefine what it could be. The projects crack through the ceiling of the genre and operate on their own level entirely. The Pumpkin Rabbit, DHMIS, Kane Pixels' Backrooms, these aren't just analog horror series, they are complete experiences. Kane Pixels, in my opinion, is the king of this genre. Most people argue that he isn't even analog horror anymore, because the production is just flat out cinematic. And they're right. This series is so polished that it literally got a full movie deal with A24. Backrooms has the best soundtrack on YouTube, almost untouched, and the visuals and pacing make it feel like a real film universe. On the indie side, the Pumpkin Rabbit is strong in its own way. It recently got a VHS release, which I have, and what separates it from anything below is its completeness. These stories feel whole. They feel finished. There's mystery, sure, but not the kind that requires a 3-hour breakdown video just to understand what the monster is. If I showed any of the level 5 series to a friend with zero context, they'd get it. They'd be hooked immediately. That's the mark of a masterpiece. You don't need homework to enjoy it. And that's why I bought the Pumpkin Rabbit VHS, because that series captures the sense of completeness. That feeling that could easily be a full-length horror film. Much like this video, where me and Sunflower break down 15 analog horror series that you absolutely need to watch.